Hello everyone, welcome to the current affairs class, right? Where we'll be discussing all the important aspects that are necessary for UPSC, be it for prelims or be it for mains. We'll ensure that we are covering everything. Right? Today in this current newspaper, I found many things that are related to prelims. So firstly, we'll discuss on what is there and what is necessary. Right? Let us start. Here, the first thing I've noticed is that SC questions ED's claim of rule of law breach in Bengal. Here, the particular piece is not that important, but what the piece includes is what important, right? It's talking about failure of constitutional machinery and also Article 356. Mainly, it's talking about Article 356, 355, and 365. And in context, it is also talking about rule of law. Now, let us understand what rule of law is. Rule of law is nothing but where everyone is not the people, but it is the supremacy of law that is present, that is prevailing in India. And there are three main aspects that are part of rule of law. First is equality before law, right? Equality before law is the first aspect of rule of law. And second aspect is no arbitrary use of power, right? No arbitrary use of power is the second aspect. And the third aspect is legal procedures should be followed, right? Legal procedures should be followed. So equality before law means that everyone is equal before the law. Let's say I'm in a traffic and the PM is in the traffic. It doesn't mean that just because he's a PM he has to cross and he can go anywhere, right? We both have to adhere to the traffic rules or the traffic signals that are present. So that is nothing but equality before law, where everyone is treated equally. Okay, that is the first part when it comes to equality before law. And when it comes to no arbitrary use of power, it means that government cannot make laws as it wants. It can only make laws in consonance with orders that are given, and those are mainly in line with directive principles of state policy. Right? What are directive principles of state policy? They are nothing but directions given to the state. Right? So that is no arbitrary use of power and following of legal procedure. Following of legal procedure is nothing but due process of law, right? Here we have Article 21 procedure established by law and also due process of law that has been brought from the American Constitution, right? Due process of law is nothing but where people are following what the gist means, not the exact statement or not the exact wordings of that particular law. That is what rule of law is completely all about. One, it's about equality before law. Second one, no arbitrary use of power. And three, following legal procedures. These are the three aspects of rule of law. Now, when it comes to 356, right? 356 is nothing but precedence rule. Precedence rule is an action, right? Precedence rule is an action. Now, before this action, there needs to be some warning signals. And those warning signals are nothing but they are present in Article 355 and Article 365. Article 355 says that, right? Article 355 says that center has an obligation to protect the states, right? Center has the obligation to protect the states from external aggression, war, and internal disturbance. If you actually remember, the term internal disturbance was removed from the Constitution of India, but it is not removed from Article 355, right? It was removed from Article 352 with the 44th Constitutional Amendment, but then again, it was not removed from Article 355. So you might get a question in UPSC that the term internal disturbance is not present in the Constitution, but it is present in the Constitution that you need to know. Okay, it is present in Article 355. You can go and check it once, right? It is present in Article 355. Don't remember this. These are all the aspects that UPSC might ask, right? Article 355, which is talking about center protection of states, whereas Article 365 is talking about center's directions to states, right? Whenever the state fails to follow the directions of the states, that leads to breakdown of constitutional machinery, leading to what? Article 356. So that is all I wanted to inform from this particular article. One is rule of law, which includes equality before law, then no arbitrary use of power, and legal procedure should be followed. Then Article 356, which points towards president's rule, right? And it is an action, and this action is followed by two warnings. One is in Article 355, which includes center protection of the state, and Article 365, which refers to center's directions to the state. And whenever this breaks down, it's a breakdown of constitutional machinery leading to Article 356. So that is all about this particular article. Right, moving on. Inquiries flags rising marine heat wave in Arabian Sea, warns of ecological impact. Inquest is nothing but Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, and it has said that there is high chance of getting marine heat wave, which has huge ecological impact. Now, what is marine heat wave? Marine heat wave is nothing but the heating of marine ecosystem, right? Heating of the marine ecosystem, or the water of the marine ecosystem, and this marine ecosystem is heated unusually for 5 consecutive days. Let's say the mean temperature of that particular area is 20 degrees, right? Usually the temperature is around 20 degrees, and if it crosses that 90 percentile of the particular time period, let's say the temperature is 20 to 25, 90% of the time, 90% of the time it's 20 to 25. If it crosses 25 degrees and it is in 27 to 28 degrees for 5 consecutive days, then it is called a marine heat wave. Okay, meaning one, first criteria is that it should meet 90% above. Let's say 20 to 25 is the 90% time, 90% of the time the temperature is around 20 to 25 degrees. If it crosses 20 to 25 degrees and goes to 27 to 28 degrees, then it's called marine heat wave if it is for 5 consecutive days. Right? That's called a marine heat wave. Now, what is the effect of a marine heat wave? The main effects of marine heat wave are: one, coral bleaching. Coral bleaching happens. What is coral bleaching? Nothing but where the corals let go of the zooxanthellae. Zooxanthellae are nothing but symbiotic species that are attached to the coral polyps, which ensure that there is food. Zooxanthellae are the main aspects why the corals have color. Whenever there is coral bleaching, there is high warm temperature, and due to the warm temperature, there is coral bleaching where the zooxanthellae leave the corals, thereby leading to the death of the corals as they do not have food. Corals are just a mechanical structure, and on top of that mechanical structure, there is zooxanthellae which help them get food. As the zooxanthellae moves away, there is no food for the corals, and the corals die. Okay, so coral bleaching. Second one is fisheries. Usually, there's a ideal breeding ground where cold water and warm water mix, and when these both mix, there is a breeding ground for fishes. As this water is unusually warm, what will happen? The fishes start to move away from that region. So, reducing fish presence and economy in the fish economy. Third one is death of planktons. Planktons are nothing but those animals or those living organisms that actually float on top of the water and are food for fishes. Whenever there is death of planktons, what happens? Fishes also die and they cannot survive. Fourth aspect is less marine biodiversity. Right? Less marine biodiversity, meaning that, let's say there's a pond or a lake, right, and or a river, anything is there, and whenever the heat is increasing, the fishes in that area try to move away from that area so that only heat tolerant fishes are there. So the diversity of that particular ecosystem is reducing only because of heat. So these are the main aspects that are ecologically impacting the environment of the marine ecosystem. Firstly, marine heat wave is nothing but where the temperature is more than 90% of the mean temperature, and that temperature is consistent for 5 consecutive days. And the main impacts of marine heat wave are coral bleaching, where there is expulsion of zooxanthellae, which are symbiotic species of the corals. Then is reduced in fisheries due to the lack of breeding grounds. Third, death of planktons. Due to the death of planktons, there is less food for the fishes or the organisms to survive. So there is high death of organisms, and there is less marine biodiversity because all the what you call heat tolerant species will stay, and all of those that do not tolerate all of the heat will move away. So these are all the aspects that are related to marine heat wave, right? Next, we have scaling climate adaptation policy to grassroots. Basically, this is talking about what do you call national national determined contributions, and on this national determined contributions, it's saying that India is a very what do you call climate vulnerable country, and it is showing facts, and it is using facts such as India is ninth most climate vulnerable country. India has lost around $170 billion through climate losses, and nearly 430 extreme events have took place in India, and nearly 1.3 billion people are affected through climate change. Right? 1.3 billion are affected through climate change, and nearly 430 extreme events have happened. Now, what are extreme events? Extreme events are nothing but those events which include drought, floods, or what you call forest fires. All of these are extreme events where there is extreme measures that have been taken. Okay, 430 extreme events have happened. There's $170 billion loss, and ninth in climate vulnerable, and lastly, 1.3 billion people are affected by the climate change. Now, this particular editorial is saying that in order to tackle all of this, we need nationally determined contributions. Now, recently, India has changed nationally determined contributions, meaning nationally determined contributions 2.0. In this, they said that they will reduce what do you call? They'll increase electricity generated by 60%, then reduce the carbon sink or reduce the carbon emission of CO2 with 3.5 to 4 billion tons of CO2 through carbon sink, right? And they'll also reduce 47% of what do you call emission intensity. Yeah, they'll reduce 47% of emission intensity. So these are all the main nationally determined contributions. One that have been uploaded recently, right? NDC 2.0. These are all by 2035. By 2035, we'll be achieving 60% of electrical capacity from non-fossil fuels. Non-fossil fuels. Then you have 3.5 to 4 billion carbon sink through forests and trees, and there is reduction in carbon emission intensity by 47% from 2005 level. Right? These are all the main nationally determined contributions, and we also are taking state level measures. Right? State level measures. These are all international measures. NDC is a nationally determined contribution under Paris Agreement. Right? It is under Paris Agreement. Now, state determined measures are ICAR, International Council for Agriculture Research. Right? It is taking measures to create climate smart villages. Climate smart villages. Similarly, Tamil Nadu is also investing in climate smart villages. And these two are happening, but the author is trying to say that there are some drawbacks in what we are doing. And the main drawback is that one, we do not have finance. According to the UNEP report, we need nearly every developing country nearly needs 284 to 339 billion dollars per year, right? According to the UNEP, what do you call this adoption gap report, every developing country needs 289 to 284 to 339 284 to 339 billion dollars per year, but we do not have that much amount of funding. But luckily we have COP30, right? COP30 has came up with the tropical forest finance method, where they are ensuring that countries that have more tropical forests are given money, and this money is mainly through the principal amount, right? Not the principal amount, the invested amount. Basically what they'll do is they'll pool an amount, and that pool and amount will be invested in something, and the profit that is arrived from that particular investment is distributed to the countries which have high tropical forests. So in that way we have some advantage, but then again, whenever there is a developing country, we need a lot of amount, nearly 284 to 339 billion dollars is what we need, and the developed countries are not able to contribute that much, due to which the adaptation to the particular climate change is very hard, right? That is what the author is trying to say. And the other aspect that is a problem is states do not have climate budget, like how we have climate budgeting in the center, but at the state we do not have climate budgeting, and climate budgeting at the center or at the state would ensure that it is less susceptible to the climate changes. Similarly, local participation also is also very needed, because at the end of the day, it is the local participation, it's ground where everything is being affected. If everything is taken care at the ground, some measures can be taken at the state, and if some measures are taken at the state, some more measures can be taken at the center. So collectively we can ensure that India is not climatically vulnerable in nature, right? So those are the three aspects when it comes to the measures. One, funding is very essential for adaptation, right? Second one is states coming up with climate budgeting, and third aspect is local participation, where the people are coming up with initiatives or measures that would ensure that there is less climate vulnerability in that particular region. Okay. So yeah, what all did we discuss? That India is ninth climate vulnerable country, and it has lost over $170 billion, and 430 extreme events have happened, and nearly 1.3 billion people are affected by climate change. And the nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement 2.0 include 60% of electrical capacity should be achieved from non-fossil fuels by 2035, and also there is a carbon sink of 3.5 to 4 billion ton by 2035, and lastly, reduction in emission intensity by 47% by 2035. These are the three main nationally determined contributions. And the measures that we need to take is: one, finance; two, state level climate budgeting; and three, local participation. These are the three aspects that we need to keep in mind. Now that we have, you can use that particular what you call information in GS3, right, when it comes to environment. GS3 when it comes to environment. Now we have high heat. India must address underlying vulnerability to hot weather. It is basically saying that India is approaching to very hot weather, where everyone is experiencing 40 degrees of temperature. And whenever they are experiencing 40 degrees of temperature, there are a few causes why all of these happen. And the main reason all of these happen is because of two aspects. One is reduction in Western disturbances. Let us understand what Western disturbance is, and also understand what do you call the main reason are: one, reduction in Western disturbances; two, intensification of El Nino; and three, heat island effect, right? Urban heat island effect. Right now, let us understand what you call El Nino is. Before understanding what El Nino is, let us understand what westerlies are. What are westerlies? Westerlies are nothing but west traveling winds that go from subtropical high pressure to polar low pressure. Right? They move from subtropical high pressure to polar low pressure, meaning that 30 degrees north and south to 60 degrees north and south is where the westerlies travel. And whenever these travel, they carry moisture, and they ensure that there is high amount of rainfall happening. So that is where westerlies travel from the Mediterranean and Caspian Sea and Black Sea, and they travel and they carry some of the moisture and bring it to the northwest India. And when they bring moisture to the northwest India, that is called Western disturbance. The main reason they are called Western disturbance is because they are disturbing the weather that is usually present, meaning that at the time of cold climate, when there is uh, coolness and the climate is stable, they come and disturb the particular weather by causing rain. That is why they are called western disturbances. So there is reduction in western disturbances. Secondly, there is intensification of El Nino. El Nino is nothing but warming. El Nino is nothing but the warming of water in the central and eastern Pacific water, right? Warming of water in central and eastern Pacific water. As the warming increases or intensifies in the central and eastern Pacific, the trade winds weaken. Now, why do what are trade winds? Trade winds are nothing but winds that move from east to west from subtropical high pressure towards the equator, meaning that 30 degrees to 0 degrees, right? And when they move, they carry all of the moisture and they ensure that there is rainfall or rain that is being present in the western Pacific. Okay. Now, usually what happens is the water travels from central and eastern Pacific towards the western Pacific, meaning Australia and Indonesia. Australia and Indonesia. Now, whenever these water travels, there is reduction in water here, and there is high upwelling here, and there is more rainfall here. But when the water here heats, what happens? Basically, water moves from high pressure to low pressure, and here the low pressure is actually cool, and here the high pressure is very hot. Okay, and as the region is moving from high pressure to low pressure, the temperatures become equal. As there is high temperature, the temperatures become usually equal, and the trade winds actually weaken. Due to the trade winds weakening, there is less amount of moisture laden winds moving towards the western Pacific. As the moisture laden winds move to the western Pacific, there is what do you call less amount of rainfall, thereby causing drought, especially in India. Okay, that is why we have high amount of heat present during this time. Thirdly, we have heat island effect. Heat island effect is nothing but where we have urban areas, and urban areas we have concrete, we have less trees, and due to the lack of trees and lack of what you call heat trapping methods, all of the heat is getting trapped in that particular region, and there is intensification of heat. That is why there is high temperatures present in urban areas. So these are the three main reasons why there is heat. One is the western disturbances, meaning that less western disturbances are there. Second, intensification of El Nino, and third, heat island effect. These are the three main reasons why there is heat in India. And in order to tackle that, obviously we need to come up with measures. Right? What are the measures? We need to help ensure that people are taking care of their health, right? Because there is high amount of humidity. Whenever there is high amount of humidity, there is reduced heat loss from the body, and that could lead to sunstroke. And sunstroke and heart strokes, these are the reason why many people tell that do not go outside whenever it's highly humid. Okay, so one is reducing measures, or sorry, increasing measures to tackle heat through humidity. One, and state intervention. Obviously, state intervention should be taken care, where state is planting more trees or using the white paint so that all of the what do you call heat is not trapped inside India, on inside that particular region. And also centers measures by ensuring there is high amount of public health. So these are the main measures how we can ensure that the heat that is being trapped in that region or in that particular area is not affecting any person, right? That is all about this particular article. You can think about El Nino and western disturbances from this concept. Okay, next we have rupee falls 23 paisa to cross 94 despite RBI intervention. Now here we'll talk about RBI intervention, right? RBI intervention whenever rupee falls. Rupee falls. Whenever you're coming up with the concept of rupee, right, just think of demand and supply. Whenever the demand of rupee is high, then appreciation happens, right? What happens when there is something, when the demand of something rises? There'll obviously be very much in demand, and due to which there is appreciation of price. That is why whenever rupee is in demand, there is appreciation, and whenever there is less demand of rupee, there is depreciation. Similarly, let's take it when it comes to supply also. Whenever the supply is high, there is depreciation, and whenever the supply is low, there is appreciation. Okay, so let us think it that way. Here, rupee is falling. Rupee is falling, meaning that the demand is low and supply is high. So if RBI has to take an intervention, it will ensure that it is ensuring that demand is increasing and supply is decreasing. So let us look at what are the interventions that RBI is taking whenever it comes to rupees fall. One, it will reduce the supply of, or stabilize the supply of rupee by supplying dollar. Right? RBI sells dollar from the forex reserve so that it can neutralize the supply of rupee. Right? Let's say there is 100 rupees present in the market and there is only $1 present in the market. So the ratio is very high. 100 rupees are present, only $1 is present. That why there is much gap. That is why rupees also depreciating. So what RBI will do? It will also sell $99. So in the market there will be 100 rupees and $100, thereby equalizing. That is the one measure that RBI takes. One is the supply of dollar. Second one, tight monetary policy. Tightening of monetary policy. Tightening of monetary policy is nothing but increasing in interest rates, where it will attract all of the foreign capital to come into India. As there is high amount of lending rate, what will they do? They'll come and invest so that they can get more returns. So increasing in interest rate is the second aspect what RBI will do. And third aspect is tax incentives or better FDI policies. Better FDI policy so that Indian rupee can stay in demand. What will happen for a foreign company to invest in India? They need rupee. They cannot just invest in dollars. So they have to bring dollars and then convert into rupee and then invest. So thereby increasing the demand of rupee. So it is tackling the supply with supply of dollar, again tackling the supply and demand of rupee, and here it is tackling the demand of rupee. And lastly, NRI deposit schemes. NRI deposit schemes where it also increase the demand of rupee. So these are the four main measures that RBI takes whenever there is a fall in rupee. First one is that it will supply the dollar so that it can neutralize the supply between dollar and rupee. Second is a tight monetary policy where it will increase the interest rate so that foreign companies or foreign banks can invest in India. Thirdly, tax incentives or FDI policy, which would ensure that foreign companies are attracted to invest in India, thereby increasing the demand of rupee. Lastly, NRI deposit scheme so that NRIs can actually deposit all of the money in Indian currency so that there is high amount of demand in rupee. These are the main reasons or these main ways in which RBI tackles fall of rupee. Right? These are all the important aspects that are present in today's newspaper. Right? Let's talk about the other things that are present in tomorrow's newspaper tomorrow. Thank you, guys.